Adam, great to see you on League of Our Own, episode 2 of season 2. But what wasn't so great was, well, a couple of things actually. The Viva Wars Vegas effort, and also my multi, which stank up the joint. What was worse?
Horrible.
The performance of the Warriors or my performance last week and the betcha this happens?
I think it's a bit of a concoction of everything, wasn't it? And we chucked it into a bowl, mixed it all up, and we got what we gave.
Yeah.
And I was just as bad too, Goran. I said Warriors to start, and I also said Sharks for the upset, and both of us got that wrong. And again, don't believe everything we say.
Nah, look,
especially when it comes to tipping who's going to win and who's going to score tries.
Well, I think we sort of preempted the betting chat with, look, we've tried this before and we've got it horribly wrong before. So these are just the thoughts of a couple of muppets at the end of the day. Like you can take it or leave it, but maybe you should definitely leave it. I've got a long list of things that came out of round 1 for the Warriors, a long list of problems, issues, things that need to be resolved. And I'm sure a lot of Warriors faithful out there have probably got the same problems. First of all, losing to the Raiders. They are a team that nobody's really expecting a great deal from this season. Not only did they lose to Canberra, but the manner of the loss, it was really poor. They've got issues with setting the platform for the halves, like with an all-star pack, James Fisher-Harris, Mitch Barnett, Wade Egan, who was on the verge of New South Wales Origin selection early last year. There's no real excuse, mate. The halves were poor, they were a bit rudderless, and then with all of this happening, you get news or allegations of one of the assistant coaches throttling a journo at half-time. It's like, well, why don't you do your throttling out on the field? You're on the grand stage, Vegas, kicking off the season, and you put in a performance that, quite frankly, was poop.
Yeah, I think, Goran, you hit the nail on the head. I think that the occasion was there for everyone to perform. And I think if you go to the last game, Sharks and Penrith, that's kind of the football we wanted to see. And
that was amazing by comparison, mate.
I don't think the other teams delivered. And I guess our expectations, and we have high expectations of the Warriors being our New Zealand team and wanting them to do well. And I did say, on the back of their trial form, well, guess what? It's only a trial. It doesn't mean anything, does it, Goran? Because what they dished up in the trial form, they didn't dish that up on round 1 against the Canberra Raiders.
Hell no.
But let's be nice and clear and honest. Goran, I feel like the Raiders, you've got to give them credit. They actually come out of the gates, and it's a typical Ricky Stewart team, tough starting off with. And normally when you watch the Raiders play, they come out of the blocks real hard, and if you last with them for 20 or 25 minutes, and you can get a fair share of the ball, you can actually turn the tables on them because they're a big, powerful team, and that's how they like to play. 11 offloads in the first half to 0.
Yeah.
They dismantled the middle part of the field of the Warriors due to, I guess, them expressing themselves in a style of football that suited the Canberra Raiders, and the Warriors just couldn't handle the Raiders forward pack. I think, we did speak about Big Red and how much Corey Horsburgh, how much impact he's going to have in the game. I thought he was outstanding, but so was all their middle forwards. Joseph Tapine, Papali, they all played a key pivotal part to dismantling the Warriors, like you said, an international pack and a quality side. But without the go forward, without the being able to be really effective with the ball and with their ball carrying, the halves were non-existent, and they couldn't get a platform to play. And when they try to play around the Canberra Raiders, and you just saw the willingness and the want of the Canberra Raiders players to keep turning up. And even when they had a man down, I know they scored a try in that time, but they were scrapping for everything. It was typical of a Canberra Raiders Ricky Stewart side this time of the year. And then you hear him in the after-match press conference. Every journalist, he said, every one of you guys here have got us for wooden spoon.
Yeah,
and
we've got them for the wooden spoon, mate.
And I'll tell you what, Goran, I think he says the same thing every single year. You know what I mean? Like, I think he puts it back on the journos every single year that everyone says we're a wooden spoon team, and I feel like he uses that as a bit of a motivational way of getting his team up and saying, yeah, backs against the wall. This is us. No one's given us any chance of winning this competition or even playing finals football, and the players buy into it. And I think if you can sell the dream to players, this is the performance you can put in. I don't think they played an attractive style of football. They just played a little bit of ad lib. They expressed themselves with the offload, and then they've got key players around the field that can can build pressure and can hurt you, and that's what they showed. And I guess the disappointing thing for me with the Warriors is they had measurably the more supporters there than any other club in the competition. And I heard a lot of the Fox Sports commentators talking about how much the Warriors have their support over there, and I guess they go all the way. And yes, it could be a once in a lifetime trip for people to go over there, but again, they come away miserably disheartened a little bit around their performance. And I guess again, they can't beat themselves up, but they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they do. They really do have a lot of work to do, and there would be people out there who, the glass is half full. And it's only one defeat, and it's a very long season. You don't win or lose the NRL in the very first round of the competition. This much is true. But I think there are so many things that really trouble me. The Raiders' performance wasn't 100%. It wasn't like that performance is going to win them a grand final, right? In the first half especially, they dropped so much pill in yardage coming out of their own end, and the Warriors, even though they were 20, 30 metres out, full set of 6 up their sleeve, they couldn't find a way through. And yeah, they gave them countless opportunities in the first 20 or 30 minutes. Warriors couldn't capitalise. And then it was silly little things like the intercept pass, and Savage is always going to go the length of the field. Very frustrating. And then giving away silly penalties. Like, I don't know what Charles Nickel-Klukstar was doing with his foot out, and people can argue whether it was right or wrong to penalise that. But it did appear, in my view, Blairy, that he did extend the foot out into Horsburgh. Horsburgh was well... he was... he's well within his rights to challenge, and the bunker overturned the decision. And I think that really affected Chance, because later in the game, there was another high ball that went up, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Hudson Young that was putting in the chase? And he's opted out of the jump, and he's gotten so low to the ground, he's given himself nowhere to go. He fumbles it, and it leads to a Raiders try. So... there are so many problems, the way I see it. I'm just hoping that Andrew Webster and the coaching staff, they can come up with a solution to it ahead of this Manly Seagulls game that is, a week and a half away. They've got plenty of time to try and figure it out. But part of me wonders whether Webby might just go, well, look, this is my team. I'm sticking to my guns, and this team is going to dig us out of the hole that we dug ourselves in Vegas.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll stay with the same team, Goran. And like you said, they've got a week and a half to try and get some things right, and they've got a little bit of soul searching to do. And you only have to go back to their trial, and like I said, their trial form and what they did in that trial was exactly the way I thought the Warriors would play. But again, like I said, you got to give credit to the Canberra Raiders. They disrupted them early. They went after the game, and all talks around obviously having James there and James Fisher-Harris there and what he brings to the team, Mitch Barnett off his performances of late last year, the co-captains and being pretty fearless as in the two. But, give the credit to the Canberra Raiders, and I thought they just went after the Warriors and had more intent with what they did. If you can't lock up a ball and you can't have 11 offloads in the first half to nothing and then think you're going to come away and win a game. They weren't good enough defensively. They weren't good enough in attack. So they've got a bit of work to do in this week and a half to be able to try and get that right. The combinations need to be better. They just looked a bit slow and sluggish, to be honest. I didn't think they were the Warriors that I saw in the trials where they had a lot of energy. They played fast. They played through oppositions. They tried to go around it, but Raiders forced them to do that.
I mean, these are worrying things that you're telling us, mate. Like being slow and sluggish in round one. And how does that even change from like, it's in the space of a couple of weeks when they put 36 on the Melbourne Storm in that trial, and then they turn up in Vegas and give us dross against the Raiders when it actually counts. And you've said it many, many times before, trial form counts for jack at the end of the day, but why can they do it there and they couldn't do it in Vegas when you've got 2 competition points on the line? It's just so weird.
Yeah, well, they're not going to say that the Vegas trip was a part of why they lost. You know what I mean? They've got to take some ownership and some accountability of individuals' preparations. And you speak about Chance. Like, I've seen Chance. He's an outstanding footballer, and maybe he got gun shy after that first incident that he put his foot up, and that's I feel like that's a reaction when you're going up to catch the ball. It's kind of like a protection mechanism. So I don't think he forcefully did that on purpose. Obviously, nothing come out of the game, so everyone else thought the same. It was an accident. But then you go to that catch that you spoke about, didn't even try and leave the ground. And I feel like the safest position now for wingers and fullbacks is to leave the ground, because you cannot be touched. So if a team's coming down, putting pressure on you, don't be standing still and catching the ball. Leave the ground and try and get up, because that's where you're protected more so than anything. So there's measurably a few individuals there that can be better with their performance, and collectively as a team they can also be better. So a week and a half of preparation, bit of looking into why we turned up the way we did, because the occasion was built for all those players, built for the team, built for, I guess, the co-captains to go out there and lead them, and the support was there to support them as well. So some hard truths to be looked at, and then go on and kick on. Rugby leagues, before you know it, Goran, everyone will play this weekend, everyone will forget about Vegas. So the Warriors will hide in the background, get their work done quietly, and then be better for their next 2 home games against the Seagulls, first and foremost.
Defensively, they missed a number of tackles, mate, and I was quite shocked that the worst offender was a representative player, and Kurt Capewell. He missed 9 tackles. Yep. 9 tackles against the Raiders. And look, you're not expecting great things out of your halves, but between Luke Metcalf and Chanel Harris-Tavita, they missed 11. So there's 20 missed tackles between 3 players. And that, again, it's just not good enough. So you've spoken before about how defense is an attitude. They clearly, for whatever reason, turned up with the wrong attitude in Vegas, and they need to just dial that back in before they meet the Manly Seagulls in round 2. How do we fix this then? Because it's, while it is only one round and one defeat, there are some warning signs which say to Warriors supporters, we've got issues and we need to talk it out and we need to come up with a solution here. Do you think that, like, let's just say for a second here, you and I were the coaches of this Warriors team, what would you do to rejig things? What would you do to make things solid for the next hit out?
Oh, I think, like most coaches will do in this scenario, is won't get ahead of themselves, but go back to what works and what the work that they've put in preseason, and try and replicate something similar. Like I said, and you said it, defense's attitude, and again, I'm going back to giving Raiders credit as well. They forced these individual players to have the performance that they had. They didn't allow them to get into their groove. They didn't allow the Warriors to play the style of football they wanted to play in. They made them miss tackles. They made Kurt Capewell miss tackles purely because they had more intent with everything they did. They carried the ball harder. They tackled harder. And when you carry the ball hard, you can create offloads, and that's what they did. So they made Kurt Capewell work hard, they made Marata work hard, they made their halves work hard, and they made their middles, and they fatigued the middle of the park, and there was times there where they came straight through the front door, and I guess as a coach, the biggest part of coaching is no one comes, especially through your middle pack, no one comes through your front door. That's where it all starts. When you go up against opposition, it's their middle forward pack versus the opposition middle forward pack. So I reckon, between James and Mitch Barnett, there'll be some some deep gazing into each other's eyes and the middle forward and say that was not up to our standards as players. You got an international captain. You've got Mitch Barnett, who's a New South Wales player as well, international. And through that pack, there's some great talent. So I think they'll definitely be looking at each other, that middle pack. They'll take ownership of this performance, definitely, because that's where the game's won and lost. Yeah. Guys on the wing score tries, but middles play a big part in how they did. And prime example, that's what Canberra Raiders did.
The pack and the bench is what I want to talk about right here, right now, because Webby made a slight change to the starting lineup. He made sure that Jackson Ford started, and therefore you had Dylan Walker and Aaron Clark both coming off the bench. And I feel like that was a misstep. I reckon you've got to have one of Aaron Clark or Dylan Walker on the field at all times. It's almost like that they interchange with each other. They shouldn't be both on the bench. And Aaron Clark, he was probably one of two guys that can really hold their heads up high after that performance for the Warriors. He and RTS on the wing, I thought, were really good in a thoroughly beaten side. But, you spoke last week about the strength. One of the strengths of this Warriors side this year is going to be their bench. And then before a ball was thrown and a tackle was made, they kind of scuppered themselves by mixing it up in the wrong order, in my opinion. What do you reckon about what was done on the day? Because Mitch Barnett played lock, and I know middle forwards are middle forwards, and there's very little change. But to have Jackson Ford coming off and providing some impact, I think that would have been a little bit of a better mix.
Well, they went for a big side to start off with, didn't they? They went to try and, I guess, go big boy against big boy and try and compete in the middle of the park. Well, guess what? It backfired because the Canberra Raiders forwards just played all over them. I feel like, from the Warriors of past, and I know they're missing players and we don't want to look too far back at their past, but I feel like they've always had a ball playing middle. For as long as I've known, my time back then, they've always had a ball playing middle. If it wasn't Tohu Harris, it was Dylan Walker.
That's right.
So if you look at their bench, you had Aaron Clark, Dylan Walker, you had Dimitrik and Leka Haliasima. I feel like Aaron Clark falls into the front row position as a middle player, and then you have Dylan Walker come on as your 14 playing for the middle as your lock, who what we saw in the trial matches, that's how it worked. And I thought Aaron Clark played well in his first trial for the Warriors as well. But they weren't allowed to be able to ball play and didn't have enough possession to be able to do what they wanted, fall into their systems, into their game style, because they were suffocated from the Canberra Raiders. But it's something that they're going to have to look into as well, is whether you want someone to move a ball in the middle of the forward pack, or you just want to go big man for big man and go after the opposition. I haven't seen that style of football from the Warriors previously. They've played a bit of football, and the style of football that they played, they've always had a ball playing middle. So I felt like they fell into a bit of a argy-bargy with the Canberra Raiders, but lost that battle through the middle of the park. And that's what I said. I think between Mitch Barnett and James Fisher-Harris, they will be staring each other in the eye, and their middle forward saying, we've got some work to do, because no one's going to do that to us again in 2025.
Got to have that ball playing 13. Absolutely, it's a must-have for this Warriors team. Because when you look at what they've lost, there's no Sean Johnson, right? So there's huge pressure on these halves that have been given the opportunity this year. Luke Metcalf, he's gone from 6 to 7. Maybe he's not the organisational playmaker that we hope that he is. Maybe he's more of a running 6. And if that's the case, then I don't know if Chanel Harris-Tavita is the answer at 7 either. Maybe it's a case of bringing in Tamaire Martin. And, he's almost like the forgotten man in all of this because, maybe it's because he's off contract at the end of this year, and you've got other guys who are on contract beyond 2025. Not sure. But look, Tamaire Martin, I would be suggesting to them to get him in the 7 jersey. Metcalf goes back to 6. and I would feel a lot more comfortable about that, especially if you're not going to play Walker or Clark right from the get-go, and you're going to have them both on the bench.
Well, like I said, going at the start, I don't reckon they'll change anything, if not anyone, to be honest. Because, like you said, I like Luke Metcalf, and I think he's a great footballer. Don't get me wrong. He may be not ready to control a team because he's so young, and I'm not saying he won't down the track. Maybe he's not ready yet to control a team around and put them into the corners or demand, where they need to be. And we all know what Tamati can do. He's just an out and right footballer. Give him the ball, he creates things just purely because he competes and he wants to be in everything. So they've got some work to do, those two halves, between Chanel and Luke Metcalf, around getting them around the park, but also, you can't blame them for the way that they played when you don't have a forward pack that got you in those positions to be able to play football. So they were playing off the back foot and trying to create things without getting any go forward or earning the right to go forward before they ball played. And when they ball played, they played early, they played at the back, and the Canberra Raiders just suffocated them. So I think, this week and a half will give them an opportunity just to steal up a little bit around their attack and defence and be a lot better come their round 2 game against the Seagulls at home.
Last week, we basically put the RTS argument to bed. He's a winger now in 2025. We can stop having the conversation of, why isn't he playing at fullback and all that sort of carry on. And then I watched what Chance did at the back, and it was very uninspiring. He didn't look enthusiastic, and we've spoken about the couple of errors that he made under the high ball already, and it got the wheels turning. And even on Warriors message boards, a lot of fans are saying, look, you've got Chance at the back, and you've got the two best fullbacks playing on the wing in that first match with Tane Tuopiki and RTS. And look, Webby has stuck firm to this idea that Chance is his fullback, but at what point does he go, well, hang on a minute, I've actually got to do something different here. I've got to put either RTS there or Tane for the betterment of this team, because look, Chance's best games are, I don't want to say few and far between, but like it's not consistent enough. And we saw, as I said earlier, in a thoroughly beaten side, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was very, very consistent. He ran the ball, he ran for big meters, he scored a try at the end of the game as well. Like I don't know if there's too much to fault in Roger's game, and I think the reliability that he brings and getting him in the middle of the park all the time, that presents a greater threat than what Chance has produced in the last year or so.
Well, now that we're talking about Roger again.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I didn't want to bring it up, but look, here we are. Here we are again.
I'm gonna toss up some scenarios too while we're at it.
Please, yeah. The more the merrier.
I'm winding the clock back a bit here at Roosters when Roger was there with Anthony Minichillo just young kid coming into grade. Between him and Anthony Minichillo, they rotated themselves from wing to fullback. So, when he got down closer to the line, Roger was at the back of plays. When he was defending, it was Anthony Minichillo. Is there a thought, maybe, this is me just chucking it out there, is there a thought that they do something similar where when they're attacking the line, they play Roger at the back and Chance to the wing, and when they're defending at the back, say they're defending their line, it's Chance, because what we've heard in the past from Coach Webster is that Chance is a good organizer with counting numbers, putting people into positions. And this is just a theory that I'm tossing up here, Goran, whether that may be an opportunity to do something like that where he becomes a threat. He made 200 plus meters running from winger. I thought he did a really good job, one of their standout players for the game. But like you said, we're having this conversation about him again. And I feel like, they can, I guess, utilize him to his strengths a little bit more than what a winger does, if you know what I mean. Because I feel like they missed Marcelo Montoya with his strong carries at the back. They missed Dallin with his strong carries at the back. And then on the back of that, you can have someone like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck doing his thing with his footwork. So maybe that's a thought. I've chucked it out there, so maybe it's an opportunity for the fans to jump on board and see what they think as well. Because I think, when I think about it, I feel like there could be opportunities for that. And they're elite athletes that can do these things. I don't think it disrupts anything at all. You practice it, and those things can happen. So while we're on that conversation of Roger, might as well put something else out there for everyone to think about as well.
Yeah, a bit of a switcheroo. And you say it doesn't disrupt too much. So you've obviously seen Roger do it in the past with Anthony Minicello. It should be easy enough to pull off something like that with CNK as well. I mean, look, the issue for me would be that maybe it's sort of like messing with Chance's confidence a little bit. Yep. Like, yeah, we like you when you're doing this, but we don't like you so much when you're doing that. So can you just bugger off out to the wing while Roger does his stuff? Do you know what I mean?
I know Chance, and he's a team player. He's definitely a team player. He's methodical with the way that he goes about his business. He knows and prepares the best that he can. And definitely, there's not everyone can look at themselves in that Warriors team and say that they perform to their best of their ability. And let's not just chuck, a knock under there because of a couple of incidents or not doing much for the Warriors on that day. No one really, besides Roger and you said Aaron, there's some decent performers in there, but I don't think everyone can look in the mirror and say we turned up and gave it our best shot. You know what I mean? So I think, like you and I, we're being real critical, and so is everyone else, but it is only round one. I know they'll be better for it, and I know those individuals, and I know them pretty well, that they will be better for the run.
Yeah. Just take us into the mind of James Fisher-Harris, because you know him so well. What would he have thought in that moment, his first hit out for the Warriors, and then a couple of hours later, his old team, the Penrith Panthers, without him and so many other players that have departed, and they still managed to get the job done against the Sharks? Would there have been like a sense of, what have I done, or anything like that? Or is it more a case of he now understands the discrepancies between a premiership winning, well-oiled machine in the Penrith Panthers and what he's faced with at the New Zealand Warriors?
Well, I think really quite similar to my thought, Goran, when I left the Melbourne Storm, is I thought every club was the same. Every club was the same. Every club had the same, I guess, this was mostly me being naive, like the same setup, the same systems, the same work ethic, the same values.
And then you get to the Tigers, and what happened?
But it isn't, and that's a reality. You know what I mean? But when you make a decision to move forward, you've got to own that. You know what I mean? You've got to own that. So when I moved to the Tigers, I left what I had in the past with the Melbourne Storm and my mates, and you move on because your new club needs you. Your new club needs you to stand up. And I guess when he finished at the end of the game, he would have been filthy. I know Fish, he would have been really disappointed, not only in the team performance, but even in his own performance, because I know that he would be better. He would be better. So, no, I don't think, what happens in the past, it's going to be haunting him or bothering him, because he switched his focus over to the Warriors, and that's where his focus is. And his focus was to lead that team alongside Mitch Barnett and try and come with the win. And disappointed with the result, but time to knuckle down and work hard. But like you said, that Panthers team, man, I gave them a chance, but I thought maybe an upset round one to the Cronulla boys that would get them home. It was an awesome game. I thought both teams competed, and like anything, when I said the system just holds up. The system that the Penrith Panthers have, that doesn't matter who you lose or what they've lost. The system that they run doesn't change, and players slip in there and just get the job done.
Yeah, and even in the face of Dylan Edwards not having the best game of his career, they were still able to turn up and make sure that they beat the Sharks. And Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin, it's just like clockwork for them. And I was so thrilled that the Iceman, Isaiah Papali'i, after such a a tough time at the Tigers, dealing with poor results, dealing with injury. There he is, securing a win for himself with his new club and getting off to a really good start on the right foot. I was wrapped for him. But just going back to the fish before we move on, he is the scariest dude I think I've ever met. And not that I've met him, but I just saw him on a video call and he frightened me. I can't imagine what it would be like in a dressing room after a loss like that, and he's going to give players a dressing down or a bit of a side eye or whatever like that. That would be a very uncomfortable place to be for a teammate of the fish.
No, he's definitely intent. He's definitely intense.
Intent personified.
Intent, like it's intent times 3,000. That's him. But that's what I love about James, and I just love that he's so, I guess, hard not only on himself but on his performance, on his teammates. But when you look at both him and Mitch Barnett, they're really quite similar players in the way that they hit people between the eyes. They're straight up and down. They're honest. They'll give their feedback, and I reckon Fish and Mitch would have had them. Fish would have spoke the most he's ever spoken after a game, I reckon, on the weekend, and really hit players between the eyes, and would have first and foremost owned his own performance, but really spoke with authority and mana and said, man, this is not us. We don't turn up like this ever again. And, I know he'll be going back to the drawing board and working his butt off and taking players with him to be better next time for sure. And, man, you wouldn't want to be on his side at training, on his bad side this week at training, because, man, he'd be training the house down.
I bet, yeah. And for me, that would be motivation enough to make sure that the next time you turn up with your A game, because
definitely
you've just been put on blast, put on notice by James Fisher-Harris. I don't ever want to experience that again.
Yeah.
if I could live the rest of my life without the fear of James Fisher-Harris breathing down my neck, telling me that I've done badly, then I'll do anything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, he's coming from a winning culture, Goran. He's come from a winning culture, and he knows what that looks like. So when you don't perform well, if there's one person you want to be listening to, it's James Fisher-Harris, because he knows what that is and knows what that looks like. So, yeah, plenty of work to do for the Warriors individually as a team, but I reckon they'll be so much better at Go Media Stadium, Mount Smart, in their round 2 game against the Seagulls.
So the prediction is this, that they will be better, but there won't be wholesale changes which might not satisfy the fan base. Is that fair enough? Is that a fair statement?
Well, I think you're not going to be able to satisfy everyone, are you, Goran? And at the end of the day, the coach has the last say, and the players have got to perform. And there's no point changing the team after one performance. But you put 2 or 3 of those performances together in round 3, you still haven't won a game, then I feel like that's when you've got to stand in there and go, all right, like, we've got to make changes here. We've got to have a real hard look at the individuals. But again, and when you're looking at individuals, and if you're not performing, you must really need to have a look at yourselves first and foremost and say, well, why aren't these players giving us what they need? Are we as a staff not giving them enough detail? Are we ticking all the boxes for them in their preparation? Or is the players ticking all the boxes for themselves for preparation? So it's a bit of an accountability on both sides, but they'll be better for it.
All right, Blairy, as we did last week, oh man, it was a shocker. Bet you this happens in round 1. It was appalling. We went
bad.
it was so bad. It's not even worth talking about. We were 0-4.
Let it go.
It was the worst performance of the weekend. We've been berating the Warriors and their efforts in Vegas, but my multi sucked so hard that was the worst performance over the NRL weekend. No doubt about it. So
I hope no one copied your bets, mate.
Yeah, I feel terrible if someone did, but yeah, look, hopefully they didn't. We're on to bigger and better and hopefully
Let's
more
go.
accurate things this week. So for the rest of round one, betcha this happens for the rest of round one. We've got 6 games. I'm going to pick a winner. We'll multi it up and we'll see what that gets us at the end of the day. First match, Thursday night. It's the Roosters and the Broncos. What are you thinking?
Oh, I reckon, this is funny because I kind of said something similar to the first couple of games, but I'm real confident in this one.
Oh, so am I, mate. I'm uber confident of the Broncos.
Well, that's where I was going to go. I'm real confident in the Broncos just turning it on against the Roosters, and I feel like this will be it'll be a big scoreline. I think they'll blow them off the park.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, mate. Roosters, they look a shadow of their former selves, even though Ezra Mam is on the sidelines for being a naughty boy. I think he's coming back in round 10 or something like that. What a luxury for Michael Maguire, to call upon Ben Hunt to partner Adam Reynolds in the halves. Like, it's, spoilt for choice. So
it's a couple of 34-year-olds leading around a young squad. How good's that for 34? And honestly, Goran, I think they're at their peak of their performances as well. And it's a luxury to have 2 guys that have been around the game for so long. They just understand and just get it. So I feel like having those 2 there with the athleticism and the youthfulness of the Brisbane Broncos, like, they'll get the job done easy.
Yeah, so I'm locking in the Brisbane Broncos for the first match. Tigers, Newcastle Knights. You don't even need to say anything.
I think this will be a great contest. I guess, we all love our fellow Kiwi Mins, and I think Benji Marshall is getting his squad slowly together, and they're going to be better than they were. They're going to be better than they were last year, where they sat the year before that. They're going to be heaps more competitive. Watched a fair bit of their trials, and I think they've got some good young talent coming through. Terrell May, for me, what a signing he is. He's such a tough middle forward, as fit and just plays big minutes. But there's no way that they're going to come up against the Kingdom, protect the Kingdom, the Knights. Yeah. The Knights, and the Knights will get this one.
I think you've got them in the forwards, and there's no Jareem Buller at the back for the Tigers. Apasai Coruscant is out, and he's a huge part of what they do. Even though Jerome Luai is playing in his first start for the Tigers, I've got the Knights for the second leg of our multi. And it's not because I'm sat opposite you and I'm scared of you like I'm scared of James Fisher-Harris. I honestly believe the Knights are going to beat the Tigers. As for the Dolphins and the Rabbitohs, next up, that's a fascinating one as well, given Wayne Bennett's involvement in this. He was the Dolphins' first head coach. Now he's gone back to the Rabbitohs. I think the Dolphins will be too strong, though.
Yeah, I think I guess when you look at both the Broncos and the Dolphins, I feel like that youthfulness that they have through, I guess more so their outside backs now. I think Herbie Farnworth has been an absolutely superstar for them over the last couple of years, and his time at the Dolphins. You add Cody and Isaiah Katoa into there, the things that they can do.
Little mate, eh?
You got to mention our little mates. But the person that does a lot for them and where it all starts is obviously their middle of the pack. But Jeremy Marshall-King's a big in for the Dolphins, and his creativity, his ruck awareness, his passing both left to right. He can hit people on the chest 25 metres out in front and give guys like Cody and Isaiah front foot ball on the back of Daniel Saifiti, Felice Kafusi, Fini Fitiaki. He's come from the Cowboys. I think he's going to be a big difference for them out wide. So I just think they'll be just more powerful through their carries, and having those young boys around the ruck and the halves are going to be too strong for the mighty Rabbitohs. And I think Christian Wolf will get his first win against Big Wayne Bennett, the master.
In other words, say no more. It's the Dolphins for the third leg of our multi. The next match, Dragons and Bulldogs. I'm fascinated by this one because the Dragons have picked up. Wow, almost. The Dragons have picked up some really interesting players. They've got my king, Clint Gutherson. Val Holmes as well. So, yeah, really interesting team selection for the Dragons. But, yeah, I'm wondering if the blue and white have got enough to do this one.
Yeah, for me, I feel like this is a toss of a coin. I do like the the Bulldogs and what they're building towards. I think, you add someone who we spoke about earlier with the Warriors, Marcelo Montoya, and the way that he carries the ball back. I thought Toby Sexton had his best year of footy last year. Matt Burnham's going to be better for it. Obviously, Dalian captain of the year, Stephen Crichton. I think between the Bulldogs and what they've been able to build and create, I think defensively they're going to be better than the Dragons. But I'm gonna go against the Dogs. I'm gonna go against the Dogs and just say that, out wide, Moses Sully, Valentine Holmes. I think they might sneak this one home. I think they might just get on. So, you reckon that'll be upset, or is that?
That's an upset. Yeah, that's an upset. So, look, you reckon Dragons in this one? Because I was going to go Dogs.
Well, you go Dogs, but I'm just going to say, because we can wind this back for the next show. And we can have a bit of a conversation around this. Well, you tell me why you're going to go the Dogs. I just gave you a reason for the Dragons.
I think maybe... I don't know. Maybe I should go the Dragons.
No, you got to stay with your Dogs.
That was my initial impression. The Dogs.
Don't let me talk you rugby league terminology out of it.
All right, I'm picking the Dogs. It's locked in, Dogs.
Yeah.
What about Seagulls in North Queensland? I saw Jazz Tevaga is getting a start in the 9 for the Seagulls, which is quite interesting because he doesn't particularly like playing hooker, but they've got an injury there, so in he slots. I wish him all the best with a new club. What do you reckon, Seagulls or the Cowboys?
I think, it's quite funny seeing Jazz playing in a 9 position. I think Jazz, when I saw him in the All-Stars, looked the best condition I've seen Jazz in a long time. I was shocked. Wow. I was actually surprised. And when I say surprised, I was happy for him because I'm like, man, he's come over here for an opportunity to play some footy. And he's actually put all his work and hard effort into it. And I guess he's impressed around the middle of the park. And, I guess when you look at their starting pack, Tanela Paseka, Takiaho, Siwa Takiaho, and Ben Chavojevic out wide, and Hamoli, Jake will do a lot of the ball playing will come off Jake, and a lot of the balls from Jazz won't be wide passes. Jazz typically doesn't have a really crisp pass on him because he's not an actual 9, but I think the way that they'll play will be a great way for Jazz just to get the ball off the ground to those big middles. I think, man, with the experience of the Manly Seagulls, I think they're going to be too strong, especially for that forward pack. But you can't write off the North Queensland Cowboys. They've got attacking weapons all over the place with Drinkwater and the way that he plays. I like Jackson Piju. He's a really good young centre, and then obviously a former Warrior, Viliami Vailea. There's some quality players on both sides, but I just think the experience and the power of the Manly Seagulls will be better than the Cowboys for this one.
Yeah, I totally agree. Seagulls there. And then the last match, I don't even want to talk about this one because...
this is my favourite match of the round.
Is it really? It's probably my
only because we have to talk about it, and then next week when we jump on episode 3, there's a cool conversation, you know what I mean? I know you're a diehard Parramatta fan.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a cool conversation to be had next
week. I'll let you put your... What are you thinking here? What are you thinking?
The Melbourne Storm
Give me
and
some
the
stats
Parramatta Eels. I don't... What is it now? 26 matches in a row. They win every single season opener, don't they? It's just what they do. So Parramatta Eels on a hiding to nothing. I know they've got a new coach in Jason Riles, and they've brought in a number of exciting young new talents. I'm looking forward to seeing Yongi at the back, and they've got Zach Lomax in the centres. But this is a Melbourne Storm team which looks frightening. It's very little change, if any, from last year. They made the grand final. They are going to win again. It's that simple. They've got the Dalian medalist in the halves alongside Cameron Munster. I thought that Ali Katoa had a magnificent 2024, and he'll just continue on that trajectory. He'll get better and better. I would love to be able to sit here and say the Eels are going to win. They don't have Mitch Moses. They don't have a chance. It's the Melbourne Storm for me. Yeah, and I've locked it in.
I definitely think that's a big out. Obviously, not having Mitch being your 7. I know Ronald Volkman can do a job, but he's no Mitch Moses. And man, if you look at their 1-13, the Melbourne Storm, that is pretty much their grand final side. Besides, obviously, Stefano Utukamanu, and you add someone like his size and his caliber of football, I feel like he's going to go to another level this year with the Melbourne Storm. And you said Alisa Katoa, he's been awesome. Sean Brawl's been awesome. They're out so back. They've got their spine. That spine is one of the best in the competition. Jerome Hughes, Cameron Munster, and then obviously at the back with Ryan Peppenhausen. But even Jack Howarth in the centre has become a strike power centre out wide for the Melbourne Storm. And you got wingers like Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates. You can go through
you can stop.
You can go through every single.
I know. You've literally mentioned everybody. Yeah.
Well, I did say they're starting 13 as their grand final team. So they're coming up against an inexperienced team with losing some key players in and around their spine. But like their forward pack competitors, they'll play the power game unless the coaches change the way they play. But when you've got players like the likes of Junior Paulo and Joe Offengawe through the middle, and Jack Williams, Tom Kalaumatangi, Tuolangi, sorry. Yeah. Like those guys, Jermaine Hopgood with his offloads, they can break open the game, and I reckon something similar to the Canberra Raiders did with the Warriors, with offloads and unsettling the defensive line of the Melbourne Storm. But in saying that, 26 straight, you cannot go against the Melbourne Storm. You'd be crazy to, even if you're a Parramatta diehard. And see that jersey in the back? Like, that's how diehard you are.
Yeah, I know. But
and that little Parramatta Eels little sign on there too.
Yeah, I know. I'm all in, mate, but not against the Melbourne Storm in round 1. So, yeah, I've got the Storm, and we've got our multi. 6 legs. $10.67. We'll put a sly little $5 on that, paying $53.35. Let's go for the rest of round 1. Boom, it's done.
Nice, awesome.
Oh, mate, yeah. I'm going to look like an absolute dick if the Eels manage to get up and win, going against my team.
You're not going to hear the end of it, especially from me, and then most of your Parramatta fans that tune in and listen to this conversation. Maybe when you clip this up, Goran, clip that Parramatta segment up too, please.
Okay, I will.
I will share that to all my Parramatta fans, including your fans, just so they're all aware that, hey, their number 1 supporter has gone against them, but you might have some mates with you.
I'm a realist at the end of the day, Blairy, and look, those odds are stacked against us. So, yeah, Melbourne Storm to beat the Eels, unfortunately. No. But look, I think that's where we'll leave it this week, mate. Another episode, League of Our Own, done and dusted. I think we've fixed the problems of the Warriors, i.e. they won't change a thing and they'll roll out the same team against the Sea Eagles in a week and a half. But, we look forward to an improved effort when they do take to the field next time, mate. Awesome to see you. And anything else before we say farewell?
Definitely excited for the season to kick off for every other club, except for those Vegas teams, and and yourself as well with Parramatta, Goran. All the very best for not only this weekend but the game for the season. Can't wait to see where it ends up at the end of the year, but also can't wait to see who our next big superstar is out there. And this game's going to create so many memories and opportunities for everyone. It's going to be an awesome season, 2025.